Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another YouTube video. So today we're going to just look at a little bit of price action across the board generally. We're going to start with Bitcoin and see if we can find if Bitcoin's bottoming around here. Now, if you remember some of the things that we discussed when we were up in like these areas where the mouse is on the screen right now, is I actually had a box drawn in here. I've just removed it because I thought it was just looking a bit messy. I said this was the most likely area for reversal, and we actually came lower than that. And I said, look, this is major support. I did give my reasoning as to why I thought that. But what I did discuss was if we do come into the major support, that the liquidity will be here as well. Like all these lows, where like lows build up, is where like liquidity is. And I said, look, this is why we had these horizontal rays drawn on. From the areas of lows where people are going to put their stop losses. And when people take a long position, they put their stop loss below the recent low, and that means that liquidity builds up there. Now we have wicked and taken those areas and closed some of this fair value gap. The one thing I would like to just point out right now is that there is this candle that's open here. I'm not saying that we have to come into that, but you do find in areas where we're like bottoming, let's look at the RSI as well, we'll take this into consideration, that horizontal raise for something else. But you do find when we bottom, you get patterns that appear that are something like this, where price is, I'm going to go into another thing actually in a second, but where price, like let's say, comes a little bit further down and then gets bought up quite aggressively, and then you head out from there, and then you have a lower low, and then what you would hope to see is that price comes down, makes a higher low on the daily time frame, creating that bullish divergence for then to really form that bottom, shake people out. Like these are the people who've caught the bottom, they're long, they're thinking, yes, we're going to reverse from here, there's no way it comes back down again, they get flushed out of their positions, and then often that's when you go. Now, I'm not saying that has to happen, I want to take you to I'll take you to the hourly actually, because I think that's where we've started to see, for the first time, what we've seen is a bit of a violation of the downtrend. What I mean by that is this is a high that we put in, then we came and we formed a low, then we actually did form a higher high here, and at the minute we're still forming higher lows, and so that can continue to keep the trend to the upside. But if you look all the way back through this downtrend, it's basically 107k the last time that we formed a higher high after forming a lower low. Look, so we had this range where we formed equal highs, we came down, then we formed a lower low, then we actually formed a lower high, to be fair, here, and then we continued down, and we haven't even challenged highs since then. Low, lower high, low, lower high, low. First time here we got an equal high, and then a higher low, and then a higher high. So there is some basis for a discussion of a trend reversal. As I said, you do normally find that what this is signaling is that the strength at the very minimum is waning to the downside. The downside move is becoming exhausted. Doesn't mean we can't have one more capitulation, as I said, to sweep the people who are in this position here. And then potentially touch this 76k, and it's not what I want to see, and I'm not saying that it's my base case. I'm not really sure. I've actually put a bid in on an alt, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The reason I talk about that area as well is because we do have liquidity on the hourly here for Bitcoin, around that 76k. So there's two things there that form that discussion. One's that fair value gap on that candle that we've discussed, and how bottoms normally form. Here's the fair value gap on your left here, as you can see, and how bottoms normally form. The big question is, like, whether we do get this flush or not, and whether we have got the strength to bounce. So the two questions. One thing that I think is quite important is we're in the oversold area on the 3-day, showing that the momentum to the downside is peak here. The last time we were literally in this oversold area was pretty much at bear market lows. Not quite. We did actually come a little bit further down than that. And then before that, the last time we had the 3-day bear, the 3-day oversold area was actually in C19, and then before that was the literal bottom of the bear when Bitcoin was at 3,000 in 2018. So what I'm saying is this area, in terms of like the amount of selling that we've had, is a bear market bottom indicator. That's how low we are in terms of selling pressure and how negative the market is right now. So that's something to really take into consideration. So I'm not going to say too much and be moon boy here, but what I am going to say is both of the previous occasions that we've seen this 3-day oversold area, we've seen significant upside price action after this. So let's just go from the absolute lows of the 3-day, which is say here, to where we are now. We saw a 600% rally that time. The time before was the C19 lows, which was here to the highs, where you can say that's the high. We saw a 1,700%. Even during the bear market, we had this relief rally, and that relief rally in the bear took us 350%. Pretty much every single time we've seen the 3-day get to this level of in the oversold territory, we've seen at least a 300% rally. Now, I'm not here to say that's definitely going to happen to Bitcoin now, but I'm also not here to say that's out of the question, because I think a lot of people have made their bed and they've sold and they're out and they're short and that's it and this is the end. And there is a chance, and I don't want to put too much weight on it, as I said, but there is a chance that this time's different. And I do think we go to all-time highs. Whether we do a 300% move, that's where I don't know. But like I keep saying to you guys, I do think on the daily time frame, the liquidity above us is just too large to not be taken. And I do think this gets taken at some point. Now, as I said, whether we wick into these areas and sweep liquidity below first, I don't know. And a lot of people are getting angry at me over on Twitter and saying, look, you keep posting these liquidity charts, but all it does is go down. That's actually not true. It just feels like that for the time being. Every single time we've seen liquidity at least as dense, if not more dense, to the upside, we've taken it. 80% of the time, statistically, you take it. Sometimes to the downside, we've left it. But every time we've had it to the upside, we have taken it so far. This cycle, that's fact. You can just scroll through and have a look yourself. And that's what I'm showing here. It's like I'm showing that we do take upside liquidity 80% of the time, statistically. Whether this is the 5th time and we're not going to take it on the 5th time, I don't know, but I presume not. You can't make the presumption that you're not going to take it, because any bet where you get an 80% chance of being right, you surely take that bet. That's how maths works. Looking at Ethereum, I think ETH looks pretty good here as well. We've talked about when ETH's been oversold in the 3-day, which is like this period here, both at the bottom of the range, both marking decent times to buy as in regard to reward, and where the purchasing was after that. So you could suggest, even though we weren't oversold here, you could suggest that even when we got close, which is like this area here, and when we got close like this area here, this is close now. Not a bad area to accumulate, especially when I marked out this green box as a good area of support. I think it's looking like a decent purchase area there for Ethereum. If we take ETH and we look at the liquidity chart, does that align with this view? This is the daily time frame. Yes, above us is the densest area of liquidity. Yes, we do have a bit below us still. And let's have a look on the hourly. I haven't actually looked at ETH too much, so I don't actually know what the liquidity looks too much like for ETH. Above us is more dense liquidity than below, as you would be able to realize anyway with all these positions. Look where people are going to be having their stop losses triggered if they have shorts. So you've got this liquidity above us here, and then more further up towards the 3.6 level. Now, I'm going to touch a little bit on XRP to finish the video, but I'm going to talk about the token that I've taken a trade on, and I'm not in an active trade right now. I've actually put a bid in for Zcash. I've tried to ride the privacy narrative a little bit earlier. We tried Dash and we got stopped out. XMR is green on the day again. Dash is actually green on the day as well, 2%. And although they have had their pullbacks, they still look quite strong compared to the rest of the market. And I'm taking the bet that the privacy narrative does continue slightly higher from here. I'm not saying that we're going to go to the moon, but what I've actually bid is, and I'll show you the bid in a second, because I've used liquidity pools to find the bid as well. What we've bid is the bottom of this range. Essentially, what I'm basically saying is that I think that we're in a range here. I'm going to bid towards the lows, using liquidity pools to give us a better entry. Whether we get it or not, again, I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm taking the trade myself. I don't know whether it's going to be good or not. I'm just trying to bid into this area. I think I've bid about 450 on Zcash, which would be around the bottom of this range. Look, about 450 is like here. Give us a little bit to the downside. I think I've got my stop loss around 409, so that if it comes to the bottom of the range, I get stopped out. And then I've got my take profit slightly higher, like 997. So it's quite a big risk to reward trade. If this gets filled, I'll show you why. It's not actually to do with liquidity why I've got my stop loss at there, but okay, this isn't going to load, but I'll show you why I've got my stop loss at 997. I just threw a fib onto this and I thought, cool, we'll go to the 1.6189 or 977, sorry, go all the way to the 1.618 here of this like local range. That's essentially my thought process. Not too much deeper than that, other than I feel like we're just ranging, momentum slowed, potentially waiting for a final leg, and what I've discussed before is that I do think that, especially on Dash, that we could have a fifth wave ready for the privacy narrative. I'll show you this, see if we can break this down a little bit better. So the discussion is essentially that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Elliott wave theory. And whether it is and whether we get that or not, I don't know. But I think the risk reward's pretty good. I'll show you the actual risk reward of the trade. Is that this? Let's take this. Let's go for. We ordered it 445. Entry price and take profit was 979, and stop loss was 409. So it's a massive 14.83 risk to reward trade if we get filled on that, and then if we manage to get that, it's a nice return. And so I think that's worth it at this point in the market. Trying to hit trades like this, if we get this breakdown in Bitcoin dominance, if we see privacy coins continue to rally, I think Bitcoin dominance is suggesting that it does continue to the downside. This is the 3-day. This looks bearish to me. I know Ben Cohen tries to grave dance on me every time that I say it's bearish, but pretty much he's not been right that it's been bullish since June of this year. He just gloats when we have up trends in it, and I think this is bearish, and I don't think many people are calling for that, and I don't think many people are even have the balls to call for it, and I will. I don't care too much if I'm early with the call. I think that the call is the call. Like, I think that we come down to this area for Bitcoin dominance this cycle. I was early on XRP. We still managed to 7x our whole portfolio, or what are we up now, like 5x. Say if you bought a 50 cent, or 7-ish x if you bought a 30 cent. My average is about 40, so I'm up about 6x. And yes, I was early and we had to wait a while, but we still managed to do that. So let's see if we can keep that trend continuing, and that's what I'm looking for. I said I'd finish with some XRP, but there's not too much to update, as I made a whole video on it yesterday. What I would be looking for is some continued positive price action today to confirm the bullish cross on the 3-day. And if we just take us to the daily look, we did break out of this arc, but since have been continuing this downtrend. Now, we did have a higher high close than these recent highs here, but we haven't seen any continued price action yet. And one thing I did want to draw your attention to is I do think we need to have a positive close above this level here, the 0.000252 level against Bitcoin. The positive is we are continuing to set higher highs and higher lows. The negative is we need to clear this box for continuation. Similar with XRP, the positive is we're having higher highs. We are forming like a bit of a parallel channel to the upside, which can reverse. But the positive is we finished above the 0.00071 level, which we haven't done for a while. We would like to see more explosive rally to the upside is what I'd be looking for. XRP dominance, similar story. We're churning up higher. We came back into the support level that I discussed, even though I got trolled for that online for some reason, and then we went higher, and we will be looking for potentially a retest of this little cluster now. Let's show you. This would be, it's roughly around there, to be fair. This little cluster back into here and then continue higher, and that's what we'd be looking for XRP. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I've got a trade set up there. You don't have to use that. I'm taking it myself. I'm not saying that you should follow along. You do if you want to, and don't if you don't. I do think this market continues to the upside. I do think we go for all-time highs for Bitcoin. When that happens exactly, I'm not sure. But I feel like it's going to be sooner rather than later. Fear and greed index still in the gutter. We haven't actually touched on that today. Market sentiment feels low. There's not really a lot going on. No one really dares say anything positive. these are always the signs. It's gone past the like anger, and then it was like frustration and sadness, and now it's just like dead. And these are normally the times when people are accumulating, or I found that in the past anyway. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comment section below. If you want to trade in any leverage, try my link to MEXC and WEX in the description of this video, both non-KYC exchanges. As always, nothing I say in these videos is financial advice, but I hope you enjoyed. Peace up, A-Town down, crypto, like UK would say.